Hello, welcome to Tag Talk. As always, my name is Kiley, and we are continuing our Tag Talk special guest series. For those of you who maybe are not in the loop, maybe you've been out, Haley is on a little bit of a hiatus, so every week I will be having a special guest. Last week we had Miss Ella J, the phenomenal Ella J, and this week we have one of my favorite people probably ever. We have Collins, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself. So tell the people what you're about.
I really like wrestling, and I used to host a podcast, and I used to do a lot of creative other things, but now Collins Predictions, where every pay-per-view I host a predictions that goes live over on my Discord. I got some bonus opportunities. You can win money. It's a lot of fun, especially because I'm a numbers person. To see broken up of like probable chance. I mean, it is a specific pool of people, but you get 30, 40 people into these predictions, not team. Sometimes I throw in questions like, will Jon Moxley bleed? So it's a lot of fun. But that's what I host right now, and doing my own little future upcoming projects that I'm excited about.
I'm so excited to have you. You are lagging just a little bit, but I think we'll be okay. I think we can make it. I just wanted to also remind everyone, if you want your question, your comment, your whatever, as long as it's appropriate, read on air, make sure to submit a super chat and we will read every single one of those. I also wanted to say hello to Jackie. I love Jackie. She's a good friend of Tag Talk. And go check out Elite POV, because I love Elite POV. So, Collins, are you still here?
Oh, no.
Oh, you dropped out for a second.
Are you still there? I'm here.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, good.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on. I'm hardwired into we have a fiber optic. So I'm not sure what's going on.
We're just going to trust. We're going to trust the Wi-Fi energy, and we're just going to go. So, like I was saying, okay. Well, while you sort that out, I'll do a little bit of a rundown for, the viewers for what we're doing today. So WWE is kind of producing an incredible story in the Bloodline, and it feels like every pay-per-view or every show, we get a little bit of an advancement in it. So this weekend, maybe you weren't aware, WWE held Elimination Chamber. It was, to be honest, the pay-per-view, the most important parts were not about the actual chamber match itself. It was really about Sami and Roman Reigns. But Sami Zayn challenged for the titles. He lost to Roman Reigns. But now, going into WrestleMania, there's so many interesting things happening. Like, what will happen to Roman Reigns? What about Cody Rhodes? What about Sami Zayn? What about Kevin Owens? Before we go any further, though, we have a super chat from Ryan. He loves to submit dad jokes. So this one is, why did the man fall down the well? Because he couldn't see that well. That's a good one. It's a lot better than your usual ones, Ryan. I'll give you props for that.
Oh, I love dad jokes.
So do I. And Ryan comes in and he gives these dad jokes, and sometimes they're not great. I wish someone would compile them. And we could publish, make a blog post or something with a record of all the dad jokes. That'd be a lot of fun. Because a lot of them I don't remember. It'd be nice to kind of go back to it.
All right, Ryan, that's a job for you.
Another super chat from Jackie, who says, sending a super chat to the connectivity gods that the rest of the show will go smoothly. Oh yeah, we need all the positive energy for this that we can. But going back to the Bloodline, I have a lot of thoughts and opinions on, because it does appear that it'll be Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens maybe reuniting to take on the Usos at WrestleMania. But I'm really interested to hear what you think about all of this.
Where do I start? If you can't tell, I am a Roman Reigns OG fan back when it was not cool. But I think it's safe to say that the biggest storyline going into WrestleMania is not the main title.
No.
If it plays out that Sami and Kevin go against the Usos for the tag title, hey, it should main event a night somehow. I don't know. Or something. But the biggest storyline going into WrestleMania is not a main title.
Yeah.
And when has that happened? Probably a long time. I don't have a huge knowledge on things prior to 1996, but I think it's evident. I think that Kate had posted that Roman in his 900-day reign has only wrestled 19 times.
Which is crazy, isn't it?
Absolutely insane. And yet he's created this little Roman empire. He is, he's going to be known as the longest reigning champion. I don't think anybody else is going to take the cake on that one. But if you look at it from the perspective, we all kind of know what's going to happen at WrestleMania. Cody and Roman are going to face each other. Cody's going to win. But this Elimination Chamber, if there's something that WWE does, is that they are so bad at striking while the iron is hot. You're in Montreal. Agree. The crowd has never been hotter. Statistically speaking, Sami Zayn is a needle mover. Numbers go up when he's on SmackDown. Sorry, I'm getting so passionate.
No, I love it. I love it. Go for it.
But Sami, like, he's constantly like the highest quarter hour in SmackDown. And SmackDown, does average 2.5 million, viewers. But when Sami's on, more people are wanting to watch. More people are wanting to tune in. I am wanting to tune in, which I got things to do. I got places to go. But I want to watch the story unfold. And there's so many different characters in this seemingly orchestrated storyline. And it sucks because WWE does this all the time. They shoot themselves in the foot. They try to grow these superstars, but they are missing the key element of the organic star. And they don't capitalize it. We recently saw it happen with Drew when he was at the Clash of the Castle against Roman. Nobody thought that he was going to win, but how cool would that have been in that stadium? I mean, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I definitely agree because, and I've said it before, I really do feel like Roman should have one title by now. And I always thought that Drew would have been the one to take the other title. So and that would have been a great story because I feel like Drew was one of the victims of the Thunderdome era where he was more over than ever, but he never got like the crowd reaction. He never got the Roman Reigns experience. So I always thought that coming into this WrestleMania that it would be Roman versus Cody, but like there's one belt at stake. And with the Sami Zayn thing, this seemed like a prime opportunity to make it happen, to split the belts in a way that would make sense for the story and not ruin sort of the integrity of the bloodline, but also in a way that wouldn't have a negative impact on Roman or Cody. Because after Sami lost, the crowd, there was no booing. There was no there was no heat. Like no one was mad at Roman for beating Sami. They were just annoyed and sort of like, why am I investing my time and energy into Sami then? If he's never going to be at that level of Roman, which to me, the story has built to that point that he's working his way up in the bloodline and in wrestling to topple the tribal chief, not Cody. And I have nothing against Cody. I think Cody, is a star and he probably should main event WrestleMania. But I think it's pretty undeniable in Cody's absence, Sami Zayn has sort of taken that babyface spot. And I think it's really, really hard to argue against that. So WWE not capitalizing on that with a guy who's, wrestling in Canada. He's a Canadian. This is like his hometown, his home people. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, imagine that would have been a moment that we would talk about for years and years and years. It would be in like every video package. It'd be like in the WWE intro. They tout it all the time. Like, look at our Canadian legends. And it didn't happen. And it's just, I just don't understand. Just don't book it at that point. Like, I'd rather they just did, because the match itself was fine. I didn't think it was anything crazy.
Yeah.
But at that point, I almost feel like that's just a disservice. Like, now I'm just annoyed because I know Sami is never going to beat Roman. He's never going to get that spot. Right. And going into WrestleMania, I think Sami and KO versus the Usos is the match they're going with, which I'm excited for because I love Sami and KO and I'd love them to have a reunion. But I'm always going to have that thing in the back of my mind that says, oh, Sami should have beaten Roman.
Right. I may look young, but I've been around to watch different ebbs and flows of WWE trying things, and it's either a success or it either fails. And part of me kind of is reminded of, yes, we draw parallels with Daniel Bryan, the build up to WrestleMania 30, how 2 years prior at WrestleMania, what is that, 28? Sorry, I'm trying to think of the year. I think 2014 was WrestleMania 30, so that would have been 2012. So he lost the World Heavyweight Championship to Sheamus in 18 seconds. So you have that, I understand that he had some injuries and, everybody wanted to work it through. So when he was coming back, Royal Rumble 2014, everybody wanted Daniel Bryan because they knew he was coming back. And you hit number 30 and he's still not in the Royal Rumble match, and out comes freaking Rey Mysterio. And Rey Mysterio gets booed.
Yeah.
And who wins the Royal Rumble? Batista. And you could see that WWE was going to WWE again because Batista is just coming back from 3 years being gone, coming back, and they're like, we're going to put the title on that guy. He's going to be our star because, Batista is amazing. But organically, you're growing this Daniel Bryan character. And the Yes Movement literally takes this idea of Batista being your champion at WrestleMania 30, and Daniel Bryan loses at the Elimination Chamber. He's the last person, and it's by interference. It's not by any volition of his own. And that's when it, you're a B+ player, Triple H and Steph are constantly putting him down. The Yes Movement literally is fire. And that moment was like the time when I first started coming back to watching wrestling because of Total Divas. And so I had heard about watching, this Daniel Bryan guy. He's from my area. Like, I'm in the Seattle area. He's in Aberdeen, which is about two hours south, but it would be the closest major city for him. So we've all known who Daniel Bryan is. And just coming back to this whole thing and WWE actually capitalizing on an organic star, it really ignited him in his longevity as his career. It really solidified who he is as a wrestler. Yeah. Now, going back in parallels to Sami Zayn, I feel like if you've watched Ring of Honor, if you've watched any match in NXT that Sami Zayn has done, you know that he's a phenomenal wrestler. He has the talent, he has the charisma, he has the skill. What is WWE waiting for? In the match, it was another Roman Reigns match where Roman Reigns can't win the match without interference.
Yeah.
So what did Sami Zayn have to prove further? And that's what bothers me, is that We all know, all the fans are the same Daniel Bryan effective. We all know how great he is. We just want to see him with that title. We want to see him appreciated, and that storytelling payoff, like you had mentioned. So when it doesn't happen, it's
it feels, and I've also made the Daniel Bryan comparison, and a lot of people have told me that the Yes Movement is like way far and away above what Sami Zayn is doing, but I disagree. Seeing people talk about the ratings that Sami draws, the crowd reaction to Sami losing, which I think WWE thought that Roman would get booed and that he would go into WrestleMania as, the biggest heel he's ever been to be toppled by Cody. I think that was the angle they were going for. But Sami Zayn, and, there's all these reports that they don't see him as a main eventer, that they don't see him at the Roman and Cody level, and they never have, and they probably never will, which to me is, I don't know how you can see someone who draws those ratings, sells that merch, has these great matches that people share all over the internet, has, great social media views. Like, what other metric are they looking for that he's not meeting? Because as far as I'm concerned, he's checking every main eventer box, and they don't give him the title. And I understand you want Roman. He's been champ for 900 days. You want him to lose at WrestleMania, whatever. And I understand the reasoning behind that. But then don't book this match.
Right.
Because just don't book it. Like, don't have Roman on the show. Just do like a Bloodline video package or something.
Right. I also want to mention, because Roman can't seem to win a match without interference, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how Jimmy and Jay, well, at least Jimmy was able to get into Canada with his, was it 4 DUIs?
Something like that, yeah.
WWE needed something. So that was vital. So when we're seeing him on screen, you're like, oh, Jimmy's here. That has to be something going down. That, like, he does the initial interference and whatever, and then Jay comes out, all the things. But in my brain, I'm like, okay, maybe Cody's here so that we can wrap all of, Elimination Chamber up with a nice little bow. Even if Sami lost, we could still have Cody come out. We could still have, Kevin come out, kind of really tying things up to be a nice little package just for WrestleMania. But now we have this disconnect still with Cody, even though Cody has said that he fully supported Sami.
Yeah.
So if you don't watch the weekly shows and you're like, oh, I watched this Elimination Chamber thing, and now you're watching WrestleMania, and you're like, wait a minute. How does this all play together? Like, you've been telling this huge story for so long. How does this play together? And it just, it's all going to come down to WrestleMania, and I don't want to see Sami forgotten.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have hurt Roman's whatever if Sami had won and had the title for like a couple weeks and then lost it. That's happened before.
Yeah. Well, and I also feel like, and this is my personal opinion, but I also think other people have, voiced the same thing. I almost feel like, well, one, I feel like in Cody's injury, and when he was gone, I think Sami earned the title, like, straight up. I think the Bloodline story as we know it has not been about Roman as much as it's been about the rest of the Bloodline, especially Jay and Sami. So I think Sami earned it. And also, I'm less interested in Cody versus Roman now, because Cody, he hasn't been a part of this story. He's kind of, he won the Royal Rumble. He earned his shot at the title, which is just an easy way to get the match in there. But to me, there's nothing to me that says, oh, Cody hates Roman Reigns. Like, he doesn't have that, quote unquote baby face, like, motivation to him. He's just, I'm coming back from injury to win the world title for my dad and my daughter. And that's it. And that to me, and it's just because I love stories and wrestling, of course, but that to me is less compelling of a story than Sami versus Roman. And I almost, I did a poll on Twitter where I asked people, would you rather see Roman versus Cody, Sami versus Roman, a triple threat, or Sami versus Cody? And triple threat was among, like, it was like Roman versus Cody and the triple threat. So people do want to see Sami in there. But I just, and Cody said he would support a triple threat, that it was, you know, he would get his shot, but also the story would continue. And I almost feel like that's a good way to resolve this. But now that Sami lost, I don't see how WWE gets him in there. Unless Roman, like, just gives him another shot for some reason. So it's, I don't know.
It's funny because, you know, there used to be this thing in WWE. I mean, I guess it kind of still exists, but like constant rematch clauses. Like, someone loses their title belt and they're like, I get a rematch. And okay, rematch clause. You're going to lose at the next pay-per-view. You're not going to lose it. So it's like, why not? Why not just keep doing that? But I felt like Roman has gotten so many different kinds of reactions over the years. So when he won the Royal Rumble and The Rock held his hand up, tremendous boos.
Yes.
Tremendous boos. Everybody wanted somebody else. It was playing out like somebody else. And then we got Roman shoved down our throats for years as a babyface.
Yeah.
And it was so hard to be a Roman fan because I'm like, I love him. But like, it's hard to be a fan when there is no reason. Give me a reason to want to watch it, to be rewarded for watching it. And once Roman turned 900 plus days ago, and he's this like bad character now, and you're seeing a different character from him. But after Sami losing, I don't know if you feel like this as well, but I'm bored of it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when the Bloodline first started, when Sami wasn't in it, I was kind of iffy on it. I wasn't entirely sold, and Paul Heyman has made, you know, tremendous strides to get the story across in ways that, you know, no one else could. But Sami being involved in the Bloodline has made everything so much more interesting, especially I mentioned earlier, especially for Jey Uso. Like, I feel like it's easy to have a faction with a leader, and then the tag team partners who are like the underlings of this leader, this, you know, charismatic villain. But Sami being there, and the relationship between Jey and Sami, the way that they interact, is so compelling to me, especially because Jey has this history with Roman, and it wasn't entirely natural that he would just be in the Bloodline and just be cool with being second to Roman all the time. So Sami being there and being so different from everyone else in the Bloodline, and being so just loving what he's doing, being so passionate about it. It made, you know, the collapse of his relationship with Roman that much more powerful. But it also made this match, people really did believe that Sami Zayn could beat Roman Reigns. You know, a lot of people didn't, because it's WWE and you have to assume that they're not going to let it happen. But people were really into it. And for me now, Sami's not in the Bloodline. So the only thing that's really keeping me invested in the Bloodline is Jey Uso. And so with this Usos, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, you know, match, it's not a confirmed match, but I think that's where it's going. I feel like you could do something really interesting there, you know, with Jey, maybe have him turn on Jimmy. But it feels like now with everybody defecting from the Bloodline, after Sami, it's like diminishing returns. Because that was your chance to topple the Bloodline, to get the tribal chief, to bring the whole thing down. And now it's like we're going to watch it slowly dissolve in less and less interesting ways.
So I'm a person that, I mean, I love tag teams. I love, it's just like to me, like boy bands, right?
Yeah.
So like having like a boy band of like, oh, my favorite's this one. Oh, my favorite's this one. You know, oh, I was a Lance Bass, but you know, you fan, I don't know, girly. Like, I love Lance Bass, but like you
Yeah.
can like, you know, Justin Timberlake. But like with the Usos, they're a phenomenal tag team. And I think there was a time that the Young Bucks and the Usos, which tag team was the best
Yeah.
currently. But along the way, the Young Bucks kind of rose to the top. Well, the Usos kind of stayed mid.
Yeah.
And now there is like dimension to each person in the Usos,
Yeah.
where, you know, Jimmy has always been the more dynamic one. And I think that we remember Jimmy the most from things that he's not done in the ring with his DUIs and, you know, getting in trouble with the law and things that aren't colorful, you know, that aren't bringing color to the tag team and showing it in a good light. He was also on Total Divas, which was like
Yeah.
made me learn more about Jimmy rather than Jay. And Jay was always the lost personality, the beige next to, you know, the neon.
That makes a lot of
But
sense. Yeah.
but seeing the character of them, like you said, is kind of like making me interested in that. Um, I do have to acknowledge somebody in the chat that said that Sami was never and will never be Daniel Bryan. I just want to let you know that they're not the same. And when I'm comparing the storylines of Sami with Daniel Bryan, I'm capitalizing on the fact that WWE doesn't like they literally are the people booking this. Like this is like it's not just like a real thing that like by chance this is happening. They are writing the script. They are producing the
Mhm.
product. And them not capitalizing on an organic star is not new. But when we compare it to Daniel Bryan and Sami, they are two different wrestlers. They are two different personalities. But you cannot say at all Sami will never be as over as Daniel Bryan, because look at the merch sales right now. How many people in those WWE crowds are wearing Sami Uso or Sami with the crossed out and have it have Zayn?
Mhm.
Like it's constantly selling on the WWE shop. It's on the front page. His numbers are going like statistically, like the numbers, like he is a star statistically by the numbers. But if you're saying one-to-one comparison with Daniel Bryan and Sami Zayn, wrestling was in a completely different atmosphere
Yeah.
during that time. You were, if you got 2.5 million people watching SmackDown, that was a bad show in 2014,
Yeah.
because it was averaging 5 to 6 million. And pay-per-views were not on the WWE network yet. So they were still getting people calling their cable providers. So it's hard to completely compare Sami and Daniel, but we cannot shortchange Sami to say that he's not as good of a wrestler, that he's not as dynamic, that he's not as charismatic, he's not as believable. He is. But we haven't gotten that chance. It's easy to say that in comparison, oh, he can't compare, because Dan O'Brien is 10 years, like almost 10 years removed from WrestleMania 30. So in hindsight, we see that. So that's my little rant.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I also
yeah.
yeah, and like I was just thinking while you were talking, I feel like Sami, if you put someone else in Sami's spot, like just if Austin Theory, for discussion sake, was in Sami's spot, I don't think he would be
Yeah.
as valuable to the story. I think there's something unique about Sami Zayn as a wrestler that makes him fit this role so well. And I also feel like Sami had an organic base of fans because of the Sami for Syria stuff, because of people who followed him from the indies into WWE. So I feel like he brought that back into, and people, at least people I know, were more willing to tune into WWE because of Sami, because they like him as a person, you know, outside of wrestling, as a human being. He's a great human being. They like him as a wrestler. And they like how easy he adapts to characters. If you look at him on the indies and then throughout WWE, he's always different, always evolving. And people like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think
Yeah.
anybody else could really fit this role in the way that Sami has. And that's to WWE's benefit. And they had to have known that when they chose Sami to be in the spot.
Yeah.
And so while Sami and Daniel Bryan, it's not a one-for-one comparison. There's something so similar in how fans receive them. And it's just because they're both fantastic wrestlers and people love them. But I mean, you'll be hard pressed to find a large number of people who hate both of these guys. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But all the people who do love Sami were really invested in him beating Roman. And now I think they'll be invested in Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens as a tag team, maybe beating the Usos at WrestleMania. I think a lot of people would like to see that happen, especially if there's some interplay with Jay and Sami. I think people would be into that. But that feels so disconnected from Roman. It really does feel like the bloodline now is just done, because Roman is now going to go off and do this Cody thing, which has nothing to do with the bloodline at all.
Right.
And he's going to bring Paul Heyman with him. Solo Sikoa is doing, I don't know. And then
I forgot about him.
I don't know what he's doing at WrestleMania. I don't know. And then the Usos are going to go off with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. And it's like, there's no continuity here at all. And to me, the payoff to the bloodline story is the defeat of Roman Reigns. But now Cody's going to do it. So I don't know if, teaming with KO to beat the Usos against the Usos, who are not on the same page now because Jay is mad at everybody. He's like brooding in the corner or something. That doesn't feel as big to me. I don't know. That doesn't feel like a natural resolution to the story. Like, that feels like, oh, we don't believe in Sami Zayn, so we're just gonna move pieces around to get our guy as the champion. And I don't know. I love Cody, but there's different ways to go about this, I think.
I mean, it's the stories that are being told, right? And unfortunately with Cody, he was telling a specific story up until Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
And then he's out with injury. And then he comes back at the Royal Rumble, and that was the story of, oh my gosh, he overcome having his pectoral muscle torn off the bone. We all saw how black and blue and pink and green, like, that was nasty. But Cody's story has somehow become the back burner to everything that is lit on fire prior to Elimination Chamber. And if you heard that crowd, oh my gosh, that crowd was so hot for Sami, so hot during that match. But unfortunately, because they didn't intertwine and sew in a little bit of a Cody appearance somehow, unfortunately, the most WWE thing is that WWE doesn't capitalize, and I sound like a freaking record, but they're not capitalizing on this heat. And you mentioned Sami is a great person, even like when he was doing his like conspiracy theory Sami, and like kind of being cool, and he was partnered with Shinsuke, and like that was like weird and wacky and crazy. And then last WrestleMania, what was he doing? He was against Johnny freaking Knoxville, which is like, I like to watch that match just to get some giggles, like, he has the personality and he can be a heel, but he's so good as a face because he is
so
just
genuine.
A wonderful human.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because Cody isn't in this bloodline story, which has dominated WWE programming for months. Even Cody, the entire time Cody's been gone, it's been about the bloodline. So Cody now, it's funny, in AEW, he felt like he was off in his own corner. secondary to the Elite story, and now he's once again secondary to a bigger story. And it's really a shame. And I have no doubt when Cody beats Roman, because I fully anticipate Cody will be Roman at WrestleMania, I have no doubt the crowd will pop for it. They'll be excited. But there will always be this sort of undercurrent of what could have been. And the Bloodline story has done fantastic things for WWE. Even when there's stuff on the show that is awful and not great. Like coming out of Elimination Chamber, nobody's really talking about the screwy Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley finish. They're talking about Sami Zayn. And that's a great credit to these guys in the story. So Sami not getting the world title, whatever WWE. I feel like, no one in WWE is as hot as Sami Zayn, but that's fine. But now, and I don't want to make it seem like I think the tag title scene is a downgrade, because I don't. But it does feel forced in a way. Like this is a consolation prize. And so if Jay turns on Sami and goes back to siding with the Usos, that story it's not fully fleshed out. And I would rather they focus on that. And I love KO, and Kevin Owens deserves the world. But it's like we don't know what to do with the rest of the bloodline. And we have, Sami Zayn historically teams with Kevin Owens. So maybe let's just do that, because we don't want Sami near the title scene as a singles guy. And that's not what got Sami Zayn over as a babyface. What got Sami Zayn over as a babyface is his interactions with Roman and his interactions with, the rest of the bloodline as Sami. And that we're never going to get that story resolved, I think.
And that sucks. It really does. Because
it really does.
Like, I know that, there is the comparison of AEW and WWE, where AEW does things that WWE does better. WWE does things that AEW does better. The one thing I love about AEW and even Impact is that they reward you for paying attention to the product.
Yeah.
And following along with the story. It's not that hard. And the thing that is so different in everything is that this is a Triple H booking, but yet it's still the same laminated on a poster. The WWE is going to WWE. Yeah. And I hate it because I went over to WWE's YouTube page, which I've been suggested WWE content long before, whatever. They have a prominent YouTube page. All of the Sami Zayn things from Elimination Chamber, the full highlight of Elimination Chamber is 1.3 million. The Sami and Roman highlights video is 1.7, and it's only been up for one day. 1.7 million just want to see the highlights with Sami and Roman.
That's crazy.
Sami's press conference has 123,000 views when everyone else is not even hitting the 100K.
People love Sami, and WWE, it's like WWE loves to manufacture a babyface and push them and push them and push them. And either they have to turn heel like Roman Reigns, or we end up with a John Cena situation where they get over as a babyface just because nostalgia. And which it's John Cena. I think he'll always get.
I mean, he was back for one night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I saw him. Okay. He wrestled in Tampa. I saw him, and it was fine, but he's not wrestling. He's like, I'm just coming back for funsies wrestling, which is fine. But back to Sami, it's like, and I feel like this might sound like I'm dissing Cody, and I'm not, but Cody very much feels like a manufactured WWE babyface. Like especially the America stuff, because WWE loves their America stuff. And it very much feels like he is a product of WWE, despite being in AEW for so long. But I feel like, and all this stuff comes out, he wanted to go back to WWE to get the title for his legacy, whatever. So that maybe that was intentional. He made himself into a babyface for WWE, because Bullet Club Cody was a completely different thing from American Nightmare Cody. But it's like, then you have guys who get organically over in WWE who don't fit that mold at all. Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn. Remember when Otis was really big and everybody was cheering on Otis?
Oh my gosh.
These are guys who don't look anything like John Cena or Cody Rhodes. But there's something special about the way these guys look at wrestling, their character work, their storytelling ability, all those things. And fans want to buy into that, and they want to be, like you said, rewarded for doing so. Wrestling fans love depth in their stories. And the reason why WWE for so long, I mean, bad booking, but for so long was losing viewers and was struggling to get them back, is because everything was surface level. It was Brock, and it was who, now he has more character. But back then, if everyone remembers, he just didn't have a character. And you had guys who were, quote unquote, mid-card guys who were doing most of the heavy lifting for the storytelling. And now it's like Cody is very much not a part of the Bloodline story. He very much feels like an inevitable world champion, but I think because he's inevitable and we just all expect that to happen, now we're annoyed that WWE has put us in this spot where we're never going to get Sami Zayn as world champion, despite him being, the people's champ. And we're going to get this tag match, and it's going to be a great tag match. It's going to be a lot of fun. Look who's in it. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and the Usos. It's going to be great. But it's not going to be what all of us thought WWE was building to, which was Sami beating Roman. And Cody coming back. He earned a shot, Royal Rumble, blah, blah, blah. He's an AEW star. They want to entice more AEW people to, come over. But you could have given Sami a title here and then just had Cody win the other one. You want Cody to get the pop from beating Roman. He'd got the pop anyway because people want Cody to win. I don't get it.
I mean, tickets are already sold for WrestleMania. They've been selling WrestleMania tickets for freaking ever. They're going to sell them regardless of who is champion or not. WrestleMania is WrestleMania. The one thing that if I could fantasy book, I don't know if it would be a triple threat, but it would be a first fall is for this belt, second fall is for this belt.
Yeah.
You got to get them away from each other, just like the tag belts. Although the tag division in WWE is a little bit like it's like mild salsa at this point. Like you could kick it up a notch. Sorry.
It's like Ortega
that's
sauce.
Like the only thing that I can think
taco
of.
sauce.
Yeah. Sami is like habanero,
Yeah. And Sami, I think, could make anything work. But Maria in the chat says, really, you think Otis is world champ material? Please tell us you're joking. When did I say Otis was world champion material? I was talking about guys who got over organically who didn't look like John Cena.
Play the tape back.
I mean, I'm sorry that you read into that and thought that I said Otis could be world champion, but also that Otis and Mandy storyline, because it was so, looking back on it, okay, it was not great, but because it was so interesting for WWE, I feel like they dropped the ball on that too for poor Otis and Mandy. Oh, don't even get me started on Mandy.
Oh my God, don't get me started. Yeah. Well, the whole thing with if we want to talk about Otis here is that you also run into these characters who should have never gotten a title. So Otis should have never won Money in the Bank because
he didn't need it.
It just felt like, okay, now what?
Yeah.
But you took away his whole gimmick by firing Tucky. And
which sucked.
This
really did.
Awesome tag team of the Heavy Machinery you just took it away. So with the Mandy and Sonya storyline, I was so invested in that. Like,
Me too.
so invested. And with the Otis, like, I cared about a storyline. And I'm very much I pick and choose which things to watch, which highlights to view. I ate that stuff up. And knowing
Yeah.
that the person who wrote the storyline for that was someone who had previously written for the CW and what is it called now? It's not Fox Family. It's it's gonna bother me. Oh no. Someone in the chat said, tell me. But that would be too much lore. Sorry. Wow. Okay. But another person who like has that kind of like superstar power, could be awesome that they should never have put a title on is Bray.
Oh my.
Because you give
Yes.
the title to him and he has to lose it somewhere. And who does he lose it to? Worst GD wrestler ever. I'm not even going to say his name.
He doesn't get a spot here, but
Freeform. Thank you so much,
Freeform,
Eddie James.
yeah.
You are a lifesaver. Love you. You're a gem. Okay. But it's the thing that it's like, we're not saying that like all people who have heat and whatever should get a title.
Yeah.
But there is a difference between this would really benefit this character and this story by giving the title to them.
Yeah.
And you're never going to have that moment in Montreal again.
You aren't. And if you try to replicate it, it's going to feel so contrived. And it's like the same thing, to go back to the Bray example, just talking like WWE criticism. When Bray debuted the Firefly Funhouse and going into that first, I think it was SummerSlam match with Finn Balor, he was so over. And people were so into the character and they really wanted to see The Fiend beat Finn Balor. And then after that, it's like WWE saw that he was over and they wanted to manufacture it. And that's where Bray Wyatt really went on the decline. The red light, the feud with Seth Rollins, the Hell in a Cell match, Alexa Bliss, who didn't need to be involved at all. And she's still fighting the stigma of it.
I know.
That's where Bray really went downhill. But then you have guys who get, quote unquote, organically over. And WWE, instead of, really using that and pushing them and, milking views and profit and everything from it, they decide either we're going to grab you and we're going to make you what we want you to be, or we're just going to push you into, the tag title scene or like the 24/7 title picture or whatever. And that very much feels like what's happening with Bray Wyatt now. It's like he's struggling hard to get over, because no one is interested in The Fiend, because we saw The Fiend lose at Hell in a Cell to Seth Rollins, just a few years ago. We saw him lose to an old man in Saudi Arabia. We know that The Fiend is not believable.
About that old man.
That old man.
That old man.
Yeah. He doesn't get a spot in my brain. But now it feels like Sammy's in the same spot. It feels like Sami is in a spot where he should have been world champion. But it's now he's like, WWE doesn't want him to be world champion, and instead of harnessing this organic following he has for their own benefit, they're going to alienate that fan base by not rewarding them in the way that they should be rewarded. He's not going to be world champion. Instead, we're going to put him in the tag title picture. WrestleMania is coming up. Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have had beef since they've been in WWE. Like, they're constantly they're around each other, but they're constantly, it's like a give and take. And the Usos aren't united either. So now they're going to have to try to grapple and scramble to form a coherent story about this when they were handed one on the silver platter that the fans were into. It's that easy. You don't have to. Cody, sure, Cody can be world champion. You have the luxury of having 2 world titles in your company. You have 2. You have 2 world titles and 2 babyface stars and 1 heel. You can't make that work. Like that's what I'm getting from WWE.
Right.
It makes no sense.
And I don't know if it's this whole thing of like, oh, how would WWE hear the fans? Literally listen to them. Listen to them with their money. Listen to them with their voices on Twitter, even though some of them are not as great to listen to. They're just very loud. But also seeing the viewership. Also seeing, what it's doing on your YouTube page. What is making you the most money? Sami Zayn. You mentioned Finn Balor. Finn Balor. Are we forgetting that Finn Balor is a former champion? Remember him against Roman?
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody thought he was going to win, but all of a sudden, like, things are swelling. All of a sudden there's music, and like, it was just like, oh my God, Finn could win. He could, like, we've seen that Finn be dominant in NXT. We've seen him be dominant with the Bullet Club. We've seen Finn Balor be amazing. And then they didn't capitalize it. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, I guess he's just in this little faction. Cool. Okay. Didn't capitalize on that.
And like one negative downside of Roman Reigns having a 900-day reign, which I think has been for the last, I think people, recency bias, think it's been better than it was.
Yeah.
But one of the downsides to that is you have Roman, who has your world title picture in a chokehold. Like he's the guy. No one else is nearly at Roman's level in, popularity, star power, whatever. Same thing with the Usos. The tag division is the Usos. There's no one else in that division. You have New Day working NXT because it's the Usos and that's it. And it's one downside is that anytime someone, built up to Roman, even just below him, they got beat. And so WWE wants their guy, Cody, they want to put him up there with Roman, which they should because Cody's a big acquisition. He's an AEW crossover. And, we're in a wrestling war. But Sami worked his way up there, with fans and story and all the stuff. And they don't want him there. And I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. WWE doesn't want him there. And the pattern of WWE squashing baby faces and limiting their main event scene to like who they want and only who they want, it causes a lot of problems for them. Bray Wyatt, Finn Balor, Daniel Bryan, all these guys. It's like at the end of the day, you can only build so many baby faces artificially. Cody is such a unique circumstance. Right. Cody, AEW fans turned on Cody. I think that's undeniable. But him coming back to WWE, there was magic there. And he still has it, to a lesser extent than he did last year's WrestleMania, but he still has it. You're not going to get a million Codys from AEW. It just isn't going to happen. It's not like, when AEW was signing all the NXT guys. That's not going to happen for WWE. So the fact that they are unwilling to let it happen for Sami Zayn or for Jey Uso or for any of these other guys, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, they're like long term, they're going to have issues. And I really do believe Roman Reigns should not be double champ by this point. They're booked into a corner, and now he has to be. I think like going into Royal Rumble, it was clear that Roman would have to be double champ into WrestleMania. But they had so many opportunities to get one of the titles off of him in a way that made sense for the story, a way that made sense for WWE and for Roman, and they didn't do it. And now here we are. And we're coming up on WrestleMania 2023, and he's still double champ. And the guy who is the most likely guy to beat him is a side piece to this legendary all-time story in the Bloodline.
Right.
It's mind-boggling to me.
And that's not to say that Cody has not done what it's taken to get to this spot. And yes, the titles should have been split a long time ago. They should have been split at Clash of the Castle. Like Drew versus Roman should have been for one of the titles. Pick whichever one you want. Or with Sami, one fall should have been this, one fall should, like, there is no rhyme or reason that SmackDown is hoarding the tag titles, because the tag titles should be split, and the the main titles should be split, but they're all on SmackDown. So you have now technically your 3-hour flagship show. I guess it's not really the flagship show because there's really no main title.
Yeah.
What do you have?
And it almost feels like the tag division has suffered, the main event scene has suffered. You know, the US title has risen and, you know, in its stock a lot because fans like the US title and they like that it's a prize that can be valued. I mean, I think they don't like that Theory has it. But I would have preferred Seth Rollins going into WrestleMania with a title to me is better than Theory, but that's fine. And then the women's division is like non-existent. There's no significant momentum there at all. So it's like it, and I understand that there's no tag teams that are hot enough to wrestle the Usos at WrestleMania. And Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are probably the hottest tag team they can have wrestling at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. I understand that. But now is not the time for WWE to decide that they care about tag team wrestling suddenly. They haven't before. And you're going to take your hottest baby face and stick them in there?
Yeah.
Why?
Right. And the Montreal crowd didn't even get the payoff of Kevin and Sami. We don't even know if they want to be friends. Like,
we don't.
Now there's this dissonance between them. They're not friends. There was no hug. There was just Kevin going, okay, I'm in the middle of you and Roman. Let me just stand at the side. That's not a tag team. Like that's not the formulaic for like, okay, you get the title, so now what? Like, you're gonna defend them? You know?
And I'm sure that Cody versus Roman will be fun. I'm sure it'll be a fine match. But at the end of the day, it's like building for the long term. Where does Sami and Kevin Owens go from there? If they win one of the titles or both of the titles at WrestleMania, there's no one left. You have fed everyone to the Bloodline in the tag and the main event division. So it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to pull people up from NXT? Is anyone in NXT over enough to be a realistic contender for these titles? No. Who's Cody going to wrestle? Seth Rollins? Like, it's just WWE, and the Bloodline story has been excellent. And I don't want people to think that I'm like saying it never should have happened, because it should have. But it's like you have this beautiful, like, you know, surface level look at the Bloodline, like WWE at its best, and then underneath it's like rotting fruit. It's like nothing,
just bones.
Nothing is happening. Just everything is rotting because they have to sustain the Bloodline story at all costs for ratings, for merch, for views, for everything. It's like all their money and resources is in that one story. So I don't know. After WrestleMania, I don't know where they go from there. I don't think the Bloodline will be over.
Right.
I mean, maybe they will be, and that's it. That's the end. But it's
they have to go to Fastlane, so they got to do something at Fastlane.
Yeah, we need Roman on the card.
Excuse me, WrestleMania Fastlane.
Oh yeah, you're excused. I'm sorry.
Yeah, WrestleMania Fastlane. Yeah, I do think, you know, I agree with you that, you know, it's kind of a skeleton out there. The women's division is kind of floundering. They started ramping up steam, but like a little bit too late. The timing on that is. I am excited though for Asuka.
Yes.
At WrestleMania, I hope she gets her win back.
Me too.
It's if I was booking it, I would have switched it with Rhea versus Bianca and then Asuka facing Charlotte again, because then Asuka could have gotten her vengeance from WrestleMania, where she should have never lost. That's another thing of, oh, you have this undefeated wrestler. Let's just lose at WrestleMania. Wrong. Totally wrong. But I'm not booking. I don't get paid that, you know, those big bucks to book it. But I don't know. Your biggest storyline is tag teams. It's going to be a tag team match. Your hottest stars in a tag team match, a tag team division you haven't cared about until 6
Now,
weeks before
apparently.
Mania.
Yeah. Which I love tag team wrestling, of course, and
Yes.
I have always advocated for WWE to build a better tag team division. But and I'm sure I'll love Sami and KO versus the Usos. I'm sure it'll be a great match, and I'll be talking about how much I loved it. But like, it's bittersweet because, there's only so many times we can go round and round and say it. But to me, the natural conclusion of the Bloodline story is Sami beating Roman, and everybody abandoning Roman after that. The Usos, Solo, Paul Heyman, everyone abandoning Roman. That's the story to me. And now it's like, that was like your big shot. And now it's like, okay, Cody's going to beat Roman. And then the Usos are going to care about it. Like Paul Heyman's going to care that Cody has beaten Roman. Like Solo Sikoa is going to be like, oh man, how could you lose to Cody? Like, we hate that guy. But they don't. There's absolutely no reason to think that the Bloodline hates Cody Rhodes and vice versa. So I'm disappointed. I will say that.
I mean, there's cracks in the Roman Empire, in the Bloodline. They've been forming. All of a sudden, we're getting this rush of whatever, and things are going to start falling off. After WrestleMania, what is going to form below? We don't know. Guess we'll have to find out.
And the uncertainty can be fun. And I said this last week. Ella and I were talking about how uncertain we were if, Sami was going to beat Roman, if Roman was going to beat Sami, and how fun that was. But now I feel like a trepidation, like a bad uncertainty going into WrestleMania about Roman and Sami and the Bloodline. So I hope WWE, maybe this week on TV, they'll do a lot to fix it and everything will make more sense and I'll be fine. Maybe I'm being so dramatic right now for no reason. but
it's the pattern of behavior.
I will say I'm mad because I doubted Triple H when he took over in creative. And I was like, you guys have this like romanticized visions of Triple H in NXT. NXT Black and Gold was not as good as we all thought it was. Like looking back, like there's a lot of issues. And we saw a lot of those issues on main roster. And this is something Triple H did a lot of in NXT, like these title picture situations. And now I feel like dumb that I got over it. I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll get on the Triple H bandwagon. I'll buy into it. It got me nowhere.
When in doubt, doubt.
When in doubt, doubt. That's the slogan. When in doubt, doubt. So we've gone over an hour, and I think we covered a lot of ground, everything we wanted to talk about. So I'll give the floor to you for your closing thoughts and your plugs. Anything you got going on, where you want people to find you on social media, all those sorts of things.
Closing thoughts. Sami Zayn should have won an Elimination Chamber. WWE does not know how to strike when the iron is hot. And Jey Uso has a character now. Somebody colored in the lines a little bit, so
they figured it out.
And Cody is second fiddle.
Okay.
Those are my closing thoughts. Yeah. Second fiddle Cody, but I'm excited for WrestleMania. I'm excited for whatever happens. And if you want to play along with me and predicting, we do predictions every Wednesday for AEW. And I think the next predictions that we are going to do is going to be Revolution, which the main pay-per-view, you can win money. You have a lot of fun in the Discord. Just be cool. But if you want to jump in, it's always my pinned tweet over at _queer auntie. We are a safe space. We are LGBTQ plus friendly. We accept everybody and we don't cause any drama. So if you need a safe space to talk about wrestling without being judged for who you are, because I know that Twitter can be a crazy place, go follow us there. Join predictions every Wednesday and look the day before Revolution. I'll put up predictions and you can win some cash money. But I mean, we even like add like Impact Wrestling ones in there. We had New Japan. You know, we're gonna add Ring of Honor in with the big one with WrestleMania, because Ring of Honor's pay-per-view is the Friday and all that. So go ahead, go join at _queer auntie. Go follow me, play some predictions, win some money, and tell me that tell me something cute about yourself. Let's be friends and talk about wrestling.
Yes, 100%. Everyone should go follow Collins. But also, Maria asked in the chat about Mercedes winning the women's title in New Japan. I love it. I watched my closing thoughts are going to be about Mercedes, apparently. I watched Mercedes' little vlog about Wrestle Kingdom. I thought it was so cute. It was so heartwarming.
So
I had no idea that Mercedes, her big goal was to wrestle in Japan. I had always thought that her leaving WWE was like an antagonistic thing and that she was going to have her little jaunt in Japan and then go back to WWE or go to AEW or something in North America. But it really does feel like she's 100% dedicated to Japan. So I love it. And I love that Mercedes winning the title. I thought it was a poetic moment. And Mercedes dancing with Okada was very cute. I love that.
So cute.
Poor Okada with his belt, and Mercedes is like just vibing, and Okada's like, "Well, Okada's adorable." But I know I have the big plug. You can follow me on Twitter at @Fuller_Kiley. I post everything I'm doing there. Next week's Tag Talk will be our predictions for Revolution, I think. Let me pull up our little list and I can tell you who all is going to be there. But basically, we're just going to be going down the card as it stands on Monday because, Tony Khan likes last minute matches. And we're just going to have a good time chatting about AEW Revolution. So go check that out. I'm not entirely sure who will be there. I think Doc from Bleacher Report will be there. So fingers crossed he can be there. Yeah. And then the special guest series, we have a few more interesting guests coming up in the next few weeks. So follow me on Twitter for more about that. Also, this is Fightful Overbooked. Welcome. We're glad to have you here. This is, as Jeremy Lambert says, the ESPN 2 to Fightful's ESPN. So subscribe to Fightful Overbooked. There's lots of stuff on this channel. Stuff about wrestling. There's a lot of stuff about Joshi, Japanese wrestling, sort of niche things. There's more general shows. And there's also non-wrestling shows. So check out everything on Fightful Overbooked. Lots of great stuff coming out of here. Also, if you're watching this after we go live, hi. Thank you for watching this. I'm still interested to hear what you have to say about the Bloodlines, about Sami Zayn, about Mercedes, about Okada, about anything you want to talk about. Let me know in the comments below. I read the comments. They are moderated. So if you say something mean, I will not see it. Sorry. Also, like this video. We really love you guys, and we love this little community that we've built here on Tag Talk and on Fightful Overbooked. So thank you guys for watching. We will be live again next week, Monday at 3 p.m. This is our normal time slot. If it's ever different, it's because something has happened, and we will probably be live Wednesdays. But as for right now, we are live Monday. I will let you know on my Twitter what if that ever changes. I get DMs all the time. People are like, is Tag Talk on Wednesday? No, we were live on Wednesday once. We're live Monday at 3. If it's different, I'll post about it. I appreciate you guys looking for the show, though. I love it. All that being said, thank you guys so much for joining us for this little chat about the Bloodline. I had a great time talking to all of you. It was really interesting to see not only your perspective, Collins, but everyone in the chat, all these different ideas about the Bloodline and Sami Zayn. It was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for joining. I'll see you next week. Bye.